Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Alisha Cosmic Gateway on the road. So, welcome everyone and joining in my travels. And I have my beautiful soul sister here, Jo from Awakening to the Light Within, joining me. So, backstory is last week in the middle of the funk town. I think we can call it that. I kept getting woken up. It was like 2 or 3 nights in the in-between space when I'm waking up is probably where I'm my clearest. And that's where a lot of messages come through. And probably 2 or 3 times I kept getting a message, you have to contact Jo and do a recording. So here we are. We have no idea what we're going to talk about, but it's been a while since we've sat down and done one. So I'm sure there's a lot to catch up on. I'd love to get your take and perspective on like what the vibe is over in the UK after the announcement of the Queen and all that schmozzle that's been going on. And I know that you did a very interesting post around the last full moon in Aries, and I think I went through something quite significant around that time. So I thought it'd be really curious to bring Jo on and have a warm welcome.
Hey, I love the fact that you and I can just sometimes be like, right before we record, we're like, we haven't got a clue what we're going to say, but we're just going to do it anyway, because, that's just how we roll. Yeah, the funk. In fact, from the new moon to the full moon, I've been through personally, and I know that often when we talk, we're opposite sides of the world, and we sit there and go, wow, you too. And it's always this thing. But the full moon felt like a massive, the new moon felt like a massive closing down of, for me, and this might not sound strange because it was a new moon, and new moons are often like the dark phase and the emotions and all of that kind of stuff, but real closing down of like emotional things, or starting to recognize that lots that seems to be one way really isn't that way, and almost filtering that process through the physical. Sleep was just like death at that point. It would take at least an hour to get back into the physical. I'd be just wandering around like a zombie. My physical vessel really struggled with aches and upset tummies, and every single week I was thinking that I was going to get poorly, and like my throat would be sore and all of that kind of stuff. And then straight away it would clear again, and it was like, we are changing seasons here in the UK, getting to colder weather, but I kept thinking, no, this is definitely not virus related then. Then heading into the full moon, there's dream space. Was just the post that I wrote where you went, oh my gosh, yeah, me too. It was almost like what had happened in the new moon phase of like the recognizing that there was a lot that wasn't as potentially it seemed from the emotional perspective. Again, I can only speak from me. The full moon phase was almost like burning it out. It was in dream space. There was so much clarity, so many closures, so much ending. There were people that have passed, there were people from my past, there were people from my present, and everything was just almost like, I almost want to say like if you think of the old days of X Factor or something like that, they'd kind of file on in and you'd sit down and you'd have this transaction, and then it would be like, okay, thank you very much, next. And from the eye, my levels of clarity within my own situations have had so much comprehension of what is, what isn't, what doesn't even need to be. It's just felt like a massive weight has come off, and then the energy again goes woof. And there's days, Alisha, at the moment since the full moon, I don't know about you, where I've woken up and I've gone to walk through to my lounge with a cup of coffee and bumped into a door because I feel energy drunk so often. I'll bend down to stroke a dog midday, come up and go, whoa. It is just so intense.
Mm-hmm. Describe my life, Joe. Thank you.
So much fun.
Yeah, well, you know what? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's a very similar process that many of us are tracking, that's for sure. Yeah, I think new moon, that Libra full moon, new moon, sorry. So that was like 3 weeks ago. I was deep in my feelings. I was crying for like 2 days, couldn't stop, and just like trying to wave through just all these different components and cogs in my life. And then there was a massive breakthrough after that. And then, yeah, on that full moon, yeah, it was, I literally, I mean, I've shared this a couple of times now, I won't go into it, but that seeing of the planet, and then you don't have to carry this anymore, and everything releasing from my field, for me was the most significant thing I've ever gone through in dream space. It was wild. But now, since then, I've had a couple of days where I feel back to myself, which has been months.
It's great when that happens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you're in that grayscale, you think it's never, ever, ever, ever going to end. Like there's just no. But it's ebbing and flowing. It hasn't fully ignited, like, or sunk in completely from my perspective. And I can feel like it's like dropping in. This new energy. I've seen it in multiple sessions, and I wrote a post this morning. It's like pink, peach, apricot-y, goldy yellow energy coming through. But there are days where it's just not there, and it kind of goes back to that almost numbed out feeling. I don't know if you've been having a lot of the numbed out feeling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know a lot of people that have kind of gone into, I'm not even going to say hermit mode, because hermit mode is very, very different to that just void space. And it's, I don't know where you're at with this, Alisha, because the thing with me that I get a bit pissed about is that even when I go into the void, to me the void is like I'm kind of closed down almost from myself, but I can still feel everything. And I see other people in the void and they're able to just not feel. And I sit there going, because when you can still feel everything, but then you've got no clarity, no inner, it's like your inner self has kind of been switched off, but then you're still aware of all this other stuff. And when that new moon came, part of me was like, this makes sense, because it's kind of shifting and clearing all of those deceptive energies that, have been lingering around. I think collectively there's been a lot of deceptive energies. But then when that full moon energy came in, when you said about the planet, and you don't need to carry this anymore, from a collective perspective, it feels like it has been, still is maybe, a potential for people to recognize, what have I been carrying? What am I? I think, I was going to use a tarot analogy, but I'm not going to bother actually, so I've just stopped myself mid-track. But what have I been unwittingly, unwillingly, potentially knowingly carrying for other people, when that's just not, it's just not for me to carry anymore. I can release this now.
Yeah,
but
I think,
yeah,
and I think it has to get to that point at this stage in the game, because I think the leaps forward that want to be anchored into this planet, that there's no other option than to drop it, to be able to embody and grasp the, don't have words for it, Joe, this the enormity of the energy that's pushing through.
Yeah, because it's I totally get what you're saying, because there's been so much carrying of additional stuff that's kind of collected over time, whether it's through responsibility, duty, love, compassion, kindness, empathy, all of these different components that will add to a human taking something on for somebody else. It's almost felt like a massive clear out. And I smiled when you just said what you were saying, because it reminds me of, oh my gosh, I'm going back some years now, Alisha. I think it was probably before I came to Australia to see you, but we were having a conversation about when is it going to be an energetic removal of the dead wood? You remember the conversation, don't you? We won't go into the depths of the kind of stuff that we were talking about, but there was that kind of, we were quite frustrated in the sense of, we're aware that there's a lot that we're potentially carrying, but stripping or clearing of it felt virtually impossible. It was almost like you have to for some reason, you need to for some reason. And again, I can only speak from the eye, but for me, it's almost like the universe went, and now release. Ready for all this new.
It does. It really does feel like that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think I'm still getting used to it. But can I share with you that just, because obviously I'm on this little getaway travel thingy. I'll be gone for a little while, working and not working. So pleasure and work all mixed together. And I actually had a vision of this 12 months ago. I think it was coming out of the second year of lockdown, really harsh lockdown in Melbourne. And I just felt like a caged animal, even though that's my preference of living a very enclosed lifestyle. It was just too much. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to pack up. I haven't done camping as an adult, but I'm going to embrace that. I'm going to get the dogs. I'm going to get in the car and just go bush and work from, wherever. And I never, I didn't get the opportunity. And then all of a sudden, boom, here I am. And so leading up to this, I was like, there's so many closures and chapters closing right now. And just driving, I took a really long drive today, and just that time that you get to process while you're driving is magic. It's pure magic. There's nothing quite like it for me. Anyway, we're here in this beautiful place called Eden. So going back to the Garden of Eden, the original. And Luna's really restless at the moment. And you might hear her in the background. She's settled for now. But anyway, and this afternoon, she back and forth. In the end, I had to take her outside. And we walk around the backyard, and she takes me over, and there's a pen. And I just stopped and I went, are you kidding me? Like, what the hell? There's peacocks in the backyard. My awakening, my first 5D dream in 2015 was going outside because there were peacocks in my backyard. Now I'm at a place where there's literal peacocks in the backyard.
Yeah.
And I am just like, what on earth is going on here? And it was just in that moment I was having this conversation. I have a point to this. Sorry, I'll get back to it. I have a conversation with a friend of mine because I had all this profound downloads of the next phase, of what that next phase looks like for me, and the name and the this and the that. And I haven't been in a creative space for quite a while. And it was while I was telling my friend on the phone about there's the peacocks, and I was just like, this shit is bananas, right? And I think what my point is that I'm getting to is because I haven't had synchronicities like that in a while. And we know that when we step into a higher frequency, the universe starts sending us signs and synchronicities and da, 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 da. But I think there has been this build up to be able to release so much that we've been carrying, perhaps for ourselves, perhaps for the collective, perhaps. And as we start to shave those aspects off, it's bringing this new rebirth, and it's quite beautiful, but it's not fully anchored 100%.
Because and it feels as though it's almost, I think I'm gonna say I might have dreamt this. I know we catch up in dream space, so it may have been a dream conversation, but I think I had a conversation with you about being at the station. The void space was like being at the station. Did this happen, or have I dreamt this?
I think you might have dreamt it, but continue. I like this analogy.
Well, in my head, we had this conversation. And it was this void space was almost like resting, waiting at the station. But then what I took after that, this definitely happened in dream space, because now I'm getting this imagery.
Maybe that's why I was told to contact you to do the recording. Okay, yeah, now it's all making sense.
So it was this thing of people like almost, right, okay, you've done a certain part of your journey and you're going to the station to do the next part of your journey, and you're taking all of your possessions, all of your stuff. And the void space occurred long enough for people to reduce the stuff. Because let's be honest, the vast majority, of what's behind us doesn't need to come with us.
No, none of it.
So I'm getting on the train.
I think I'm on it, and it's slowly starting to leave the station. And then all of a sudden,
I think it was waiting a little bit for some stragglers that weren't quite
that's
sure.
what I was about to say. Yeah, it hasn't quite taken, because there's still people running after the train trying to get on, but that's okay. It's fine. So
it's exciting, but it's also I personally have felt excited, but I've also felt quite frustrated all at the same time, because you know what I'm like. I'm very forward momentum. I recognize that when we purge, when we're releasing, when we're clearing, it's the perpetual arrow, isn't it? You have to go back to go forward. Sometimes it's that pull backwards that releases so much there that you get to propel even further forwards. And I recognize all of that, but I still have this innate frustration while it's going on, because I'm so, I guess, motivated for forward movement.
Same. But I've enjoyed my trip down memory lane, and I've come at it from very objective perspective, and I've used it as a really useful tool to complete writing my book. And I tracked it, because I knew I went into this phase last year, and it went from July, and I didn't start to come out till mid to late October, November. And I went, this year is a little bit of a carbon copy of last year in some regards, not completely, but there have been very specific events that have occurred, almost on the timeline marker. So I was like, if I can go based, and that's how my mind works, if I go based off last year I fought it, and it was so uncomfortable and it was horrible, and I spent pretty much every day just like pleading with my higher self to come back, because it was so unbearable. I couldn't just stand the ickiness of the silence. Like, I was jumping out of my own skin. This time I was like, okay, right, I get it, I'm going to be here for a while, let's just make the most of it.
Snacks.
What's your favorite snacks?
It really depends, doesn't it? You know, it depends on what the energy is saying, because sometimes it's like just potatoes in any form, shape,
I was about
whatever.
to say
But
potatoes, yeah.
I've been so much more savoury than ever, really, at the moment, and just dry, which sounds strange, drinking so much water and still waking up feeling like I'm woken up in the Sahara and I haven't had a drink for like 3 months. I'm so thirsty all the time, she says.
I'm on the fizzy water right now. That's my evening treat for myself.
But what you're saying about tracking last year, that's oh, Alisha, we're so similar in so many ways. So I have a way of tracking where I was at exactly last year and where other people around me were at exactly last year. And you can kind of go into conversations, or you can go into certain arenas and go, oh, that's a theme, or you know, this is this. What I've recognized is, as you say, the capacity to deal with what's going on. It has somewhat changed in the essence of just complete surrender. It's like it's been like a restoration phase.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes, coming into peace, surrender, neutrality. I'm very neutral. I mean, I feel the icky vibes, but not a lot really phases me anymore, you know. And I've had so much reflection time. I'm going to have another 10-hour drive tomorrow of reflection time, so I'll have some great epiphanies. But yeah, I just, you know, it's funny when you've gone through so many tower moments and you've held on to so much and things have worked out in different ways and this and that, you really get to a place where you're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think again, like I got into this thing of just in the morning when I wake up, having a cup of coffee and just putting random tarot reads on, not because I think that they're going to tell me anything in particular, but just because I find it interesting to see how vastly different a lot of these people are saying my life's going to turn out. But I do remember this one this one day where it was like tower, and I was sitting there and I literally laughed to myself. And we know we shouldn't do this because then the universe goes, all right, I'll show you. But I was doing that. All right, universe, like, what are you going to do now? Come on, I'm so up against it at this point. Like, what can possibly drop that I'm not expecting at this point? You know, it's but equally, like you say, that trusting that if there's stuff in my life that needs to be cleared, please clear it. Just clear it. Take it.
Yeah, I think people want clarity. They don't want to be sitting in confusion space anymore. People want authenticity, and people want purpose.
Yeah.
And
accountability. And it's interesting, I recorded with Gillian from Midlife Magpie yesterday, and we did a recording on shadow work. And, you know, Gillian was very much, which is why I was so wanting to record with her, she's very much about active choice. Even if you're not aware you're not making a choice, you're still making a choice, you know, and that level of accountability and self-acknowledgement and, you know, all of that kind of stuff is something that is almost being screamed for at the moment. If it, within, and I get it, some people will and some people won't, and that's perfectly okay, but it's almost like times of waiting are over.
Yeah, definitely.
Get on the train.
Get on it or get off it.
Yeah, just, yeah, if you want to get on it, and if you don't, leave the platform so the train can leave. It's, you know.
I'm being asked to ask you this, and I'm not sure why. People who struggle with cognitive processing, can you shed some light on perhaps what you do or what you guide people around, if people are having looping thoughts, negative programming. Sorry to put you on the spot, but it's just been sitting there. So
it's something.
You are the cognitive queen. So who better to ask?
A lot. And I alluded to this in the video yesterday. And the thing is that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to that. You know, you get some people that say, again, looking at a diagnosis term, which you know me, I'm not big on diagnosis, but someone might say, I have OCD because I have to do X, Y, Z, or I have intrusive thoughts because these thoughts come into my mind continually. Then you might have other people that have built a kind of structure of belief, but it's actually been built around an ego defense mechanism. So in order to get past a certain event or something like that, they have created or hidden or reinstalled something within their mind that they continually adhere to. So I guess the most simple way to explain it is, and this is just from my perspective, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people out there that have other perspectives, and that's fine. When we feel an emotion, when something happens to us, around us, for us, against us, whatever, and then we get a feeling, what the brain then tries to do is the brain scrambles to understand what the feeling is. But ultimately, a brain cannot fathom a feeling because it's a felt experience, right? So at the point that the brain is then trying to do that, it is scrabbling for whatever it feels makes the most logical sense in that moment. And if the feeling changes, potentially what the brain thinks the experience was is going to change as well. So you've got that thing whereby at some point it will hook into something. Now, at this point, it's important to remember that the brain, as a programmed, conditioned, patterned computer, can only give us what it's previously experienced. It cannot fathom something that it hasn't experienced yet, because that isn't stored within that capacity. So it's holding on to thoughts, things, people, what it's heard, what it's seen, what it's read, what people have told it, all of these different components that are programming. So what it's going to give to a certain emotion is potentially something that it can comprehend and understand. Which is why I always say you can't think a feeling, you know, you can't rationalize a feeling, you can't put logic to a feeling, but unfortunately that's what we're very designed to do, and that's what a lot of people are trying to work past. When it comes to intrusive thoughts and things like that, a brain often goes unchecked. It is so normalized to think a certain thing, or to do something in a certain way, or to act in a certain way, that to not do that is stranger than to do it. And that's what often can cause inner conflict, because actually you've got the heart sitting there going, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? This isn't what we want to do. And the brain's going, now let me rationalize this for you and tell you why we're doing it this way. Does that help, or have I just waffled?
No, that was such a
complex.
Yeah, no, that was a brilliant explanation. And I think my interpretation of that, or how I put it into my language and what has come to me often, is that when different energetic patterns come in, our mind wants to create a story to rationalize the sensation or the feeling, but sometimes it's just an energy that is working through our system, and it's to depersonalize the story around the energy that we're experiencing at the time. But
then the brain will say, well, yes, but it can't just be that. we need to give this as something, and then you've got the consideration of, okay, so let's just say an energy ripples through somebody, and this energy feels like XYZ, and the brain's then going, well, if it's XYZ, what about ABCDEFG that we've already got going on? You know, there needs to be a prioritizing of what's most important, how we, whatever. And actually it can reach a point where the brain and the heart, or the feeling, the energy, the emotion, whatever language we wish to use, can get so out of cohesion because the brain just will not give up on trying to fathom it, that the heart can sometimes, the soul, whatever, will just go, I'm out, I give up. Mm-hmm. You're not listening. Or likewise, the brain can just go, this is too much for me to think about, I'm shutting down, I'm not thinking about anything.
Perfectly summarized, Jo. Thank you. I'm not sure why I had to ask you that question, but obviously someone needs to hear that. So, so when you're picking apart, let's say I'm trying to think of a scenario. I'm having a looping thought about, you know, moving forward on my path, but it's an unseen path. How would you pick apart that to try and move forward? I'm trying to
So at that point, and it's about what's stopping you. What's the fear?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's like breaking it down. Yeah, that's what I want.
Absolutely.
A lot of questioning.
Because the thing is that the brain is continually thinking. It's continually working, and we are the vast majority of the time completely unaware of what it's doing or what it's saying. But I've always said, you cannot feel good if you're thinking shit. It's impossible to feel good if your brain's going, oh, you fucking idiot, you've done that again, haven't you? Well, you're not good enough at that. Oh, this is going to fail. I can't believe this is going on again. And there's a negative looping thought pattern. It's impossible to feel good in that because your brain is basically going at you continually. Recognizing what your brain is saying, how it talks to you, the conversations, the relationship that you potentially have with yourself is incredibly important. And that can change dependent on what it is you're dealing with. You might have a really healthy relationship with food, but a terrible relationship with money. And it's about recognizing what it's saying in these variant different stages of what's going on. The next thing from my perspective, obviously, is okay, well, where's that come from? Who's told me it has to be like this, it should be like that, I shouldn't this, etc., etc., I can't do this, where has that come from? Because if you know where it's come from, then potentially you have a choice as to whether or not you wish for that to be your narrative, because invariably it becomes a narrative.
Yeah, and you've adopted that, and it's like tracking and tracing. Where has this originated from? Yeah,
and how long has it been there, and how do I then start to stop that connection that's going on in my brain in relation to being on a path and not knowing what way forward it is? I think I can only speak for myself. Part of what held me back in a lot of different things was trust. Because I spent a long time searching and looking at all the things around me going, yeah, but can I trust this, and can I trust this, and can I trust this, and actually the one thing that I didn't consider is, but do I trust myself? Have I got this? Like whether it goes, whether I fall on my ass or I float on the clouds, am I good? Can I get through it?
Yeah. And I was having a conversation earlier, which has re-prompted me because I'm noticing trends again. And one of the most common trends that I see is when we start to move forward on our path, however that looks, whether it's working as a practitioner in healing modalities or creative pursuits. And when we go through that upswing of inspiration and energy, and then we start to put it out into the world, generally at that point, we go through a massive tower moment, because it's like that perpetual energy, that future vision, that saying yes to the universe, and the universe has gone, all right, how bad do you want that? and how much are you willing to heal and grow to embody what you want to put out into the world in its purest form.
And then when you consider that exact notion, right? Okay, I am ready to change my business, change my love life, change where I live, move, do whatever, you know, this thing that I am ready to embrace and embody. And as you said, the universe goes, okay, let's see how much you want it. And it challenges you from every single angle. What might we think that that test is about? Is it about trusting ourselves that we want it enough? Because if we want it enough, we're not just going to go, oh, but the most natural thing for a human being to do is think, oh no, I'm being told off, I need to rein it back in.
Yeah. All this bad stuff's happened. I'm not meant to do it. You know. Yeah. Because of, and going back to the cognitive, because of perhaps past failed attempts, or, you know, and I think, you know, perception, sorry, my words, a perception shift around that, you know, can really be like not looking at things from a negative standpoint, but how is that propelling you more forward?
Yeah. When you spoke about neutrality, I mean, I actively struggle to believe in right and wrong anymore. I really struggle to believe in right and wrong anymore. I think there just is. And everything just is. And, you know, I don't believe that there is a right way or a wrong way to do something. That if I want to do something, the outcome's the same, regardless of what way I go now. Get there, the lessons, naturally, dependent on what choices I make, could be quite considerably different. But equally, if I'm determined to do something and I take the steps to do it, who determines what the right way or the wrong way is? But then that's all of that kind of societal, cultural, familial, generational, peer, educational, media, all of that kind of conditioning and programming that bears down on a person, that they have in their awareness what is right and what is wrong. So, and I think that potentially has a massive impact. Well, I think that's what I observe when I'm working with people, is the shedding of other people's ideals that's been bestowed upon them.
And that's a big one, overcoming perception of what other people think or what other people expect of you. Huge. And the liberation when you can step out of that paradigm and go, you know what, ever since I was a kid, this is all I've wanted to do. It's what makes my heart light up. And in doing, you know, I think a lot of the times it is our mind that plays a big role in limiting us in taking those steps, because we haven't gone into that territory. So we have nothing.
Nobody teaches it. Who, you know, there is no recognition that sciences talk about the brilliance of the mind. And don't get me wrong, the mind is a phenomenal tool. You know, it is an absolutely massively advanced computer that can reroute itself. It can do all of these wonderfully magical things. But let's not forget that it is still this central computer that runs these vessels that we're all existing in. But actually, the main source behind that gives the power to that is our energy. Without that, the vessel dies. So straight away, there's this potentiality of, you know, I guess, what might one want to hold more dearly? What powers it or what runs it?
Words are a powerful tool in that, aren't they?
And I'm still, I mean, I can understand these concepts. Obviously, I'm working within these concepts. I still have to catch myself with sometimes the way I talk to myself is shocking. And I'll catch it doing it. And I'm like, I wouldn't even dream of talking to another person, sometimes the way in which I'll speak to myself. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, I've recognized this, and you just snip it and it's just, it floats away with the berries.
Haven't you found that magic button, Jo?
No. But then I also think a lot of heavy conditioning and programming, it takes a long time to settle in, and it takes, this is infinite.
Yeah, it sure is, because you get to one level of mastery, and then another one reveals itself, and another, It really is. Can we just talk about dream space, please?
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but dream space is so intense for me, and has been for weeks, that it feels more real than this reality. And that I blogged about this morning. I have to wake every couple of hours to have a break from the intensity. Get up, like you walk through the Sahara, get a drink, drink some water, and then go back into the intensity.
As you well know, I go through phases where I really struggle to sleep, but at the moment it's doing that thing again, and I'm going to explain what that thing is, but I'm saying that thing because we've spoken about it before. I don't know on video, but I know you and I definitely have, where you are, excuse me, practically comatose, like physically you are just out, and it feels like you're about 50 layers deep into a dream, but cognitively you're watching it going, what's going on? I'm not quite sure what this is about, whilst observing something that feels so realistic and being so incredibly deep in it. But it's like there's another part of you overseeing or observing it going, what we do now then? I've had a couple of looping ones as well, where it's felt like for a solid 6 hours, something's been happening. I'm going, okay, yeah, I get it. And then it would loop again. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. And it would loop again. And it's just like, seriously, can we wake up now? And I wouldn't be able to wake up. And I'd wake up in the morning and be really frustrated, because it's like I remember the course of this dream cycle that was just repeating itself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had another Inception dream recently, where it's the dream within the dream. I've only had a few of those, but I definitely had a window period of about 4 weeks where I was definitely in New Earth, but I had very little recall. When I woke up, I just knew, because it was that contrast of waking up and going, oh my God, I'm back here again. It's so dense. Thankfully that has lifted, but yeah, I had this weird sensation in my dream last night, and I had it actually when I woke up, and the best part of today, where I felt like I felt this for a few days, very uncomfortable in my body. Like I feel like I've outgrown my body. And in the dream, I don't know if you've ever had these, but they're weird astral dreams where your astral body is trying to lift up out of your physical body, and you're trying to fight the process, and you're trying to come back into your body. And it's this battle that's going on. It's probably one of my most hated feeling sensations, of like feeling like that's what it is. I actually don't like the feeling of being out of control. That's why I've never excessively taken drugs or alcohol, because I actually don't like the feeling of being under the influence of something and not having control over my vessel. Now, knowing what I know about what happens, what can occur when entities and energies work, anyway, it's a whole other rabbit hole. But when I woke up this morning, I did, that thing where you kind of not back in your body properly, but probably for the first 4 hours, and I was driving on the freeway, I felt like I was still fighting to come back in my body. I felt like someone, whatever, was trying to pull me out, and I'm trying really hard to focus. And I do apologize, because at times during this recording, I've had the same sensation of like, oh, I'm gone. Oh, okay, come back here.
We went through a drive. We had an appointment yesterday, Abby and I, and when I was driving, again that similar sensation. Now, unlike you being air, I love floatiness. That's so comfortable to me. And whereas what I'm finding when I wake up is, I know you're going to know what I mean, Men in Black, right? So the cocktail guy that gets the skin suit, and he's like cumbersomely trying to move this skin suit around. That's me in the mornings, Alisha. Every single morning I wake up and I'm like, how do I work this thing? It just doesn't function until all of a sudden this higher energy comes back in, and I'm like, okay, we're good again now.
Just balancing out.
But sometimes when I'm driving, I literally, at one point we were driving and Abby went, are we about to roll back down this hill or what? Because the energy was so weird in the car. I went, we're not doing 30 miles an hour, we won't know. And she went, but could you feel that? It felt like the car was being pulled backwards while we were going forward. Yesterday. And she went, felt like we're going to roll back, and I'm like, no, we're doing 30 miles an hour, like it's not. So yeah, that's a very real, I can completely relate. It's I spend a lot of time laughing at the moment of the integration of these energies, because it's so intense.
Yeah. Have you noticed the distortion of time too? Like, there's been days that have felt like weeks and months, and then it will quicken, and then it will slow down. And even today that happened, and I was watching it because I'm watching how many Ks I'm doing and how many hours. And there was one period where an hour in the car felt like 6, and it was like I was watching it and it wasn't changing.
It wasn't moving. Yeah,
it wasn't moving. And then I'd get into another pocket of time, and it was just like that, and all of a sudden 2 hours had just flown by. It's
interesting you say about the car, because I do a travel back on Tuesdays and Thursdays from the same place at the same time, and with limited traffic on the road, there's been times where I'm home in 25 minutes and I'm not driving any differently to a day that it takes me 40 minutes to get home. And that's got nothing to do with traffic. It's got nothing to do with anything. And it's almost that thing of I'll get home and Abby will go, how are you home? And I'll be like, I don't know. I don't know. But you've just reminded me, talking about the time thing, when we were going to record last week, but then we were both whacked out.
Oh my God, I couldn't move that day. I
was getting a feeling that a lot of this, like the energy, like, oh, thing, and then the, oh, I can't move my body thing was, I'm going to go back to the on the train, and I might sound like I'm all over the bloody place here, so please bear with, because from what I can see, it makes sense, but articulating it might be quite difficult. So in relation to if we go back to the train station analogy, right? And in one timeline, we're already on the train and we are on the bullet train and we are fast forward propelling because we've made that choice. But the timelines where it feels like there's still some souls that haven't quite chosen yet, it's almost like a bleeding through of timelines.
Yes.
So on the one hand, people that have actively boarded, and I know this isn't all an analogy, I can't even talk now, are propelling and receiving this like high speed, high timeline, fast timeline, ooh energy, but equally at the same time, the train hasn't been allowed to leave. So they're in this sludgy, can't move type thing because it's not quite, the timeline hasn't quite done that yet.
No, it hasn't. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It hasn't fully propelled yet. It's there, but there's still pockets of limbo, waiting, stationary. Yeah. My question to you is, what do you feel into beyond this time when the train picks up its full speed and where?
I feel excited, Alisha, and I don't know why. Before 2020 and like the shit hit the fan, I mean, on the biggest global scale of quite obviousness for some, I can remember we were sitting there going, oh, I'm so excited and I don't know why. I'm so excited and I don't know why. And I'm sitting on my hands now as I'm saying this, I've got that same feeling, but it's almost like it feels bigger because it feels like so many, it just feels like, this is going to sound terrible, but so much is going to collapse. And in fact, I was saying to a friend this week, part of the reason why I love the snow in this country is because everybody just kind of goes a little bit crazy. And I'm somebody that enjoys chaos. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm calm in it. I observe it going, crazy. So maybe that's what I'm excited for, because it's going to be quite chaotic. Or it's that I just know that on the flip side of whatever's coming, I'm just excited. What about you? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like there's been this like feeling into anticipation of, and I think I speak quite broadly when I say this. And I think I echo a lot what a lot of people are feeling is something big is brewing. No one knows exactly what it is, but it's definitely a big part of our deconstruction of the 3D construct, probably on the financial system. And you can see that with the PayPal thing. And I think locally here in Australia, they're one of our bank transfer things got shut. There's all these weird glitchy bank things and then it's been declared officially that that Australia's broke. I mean, and the UK and like all that financial stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
which when you look at it, it kind of, I've been sitting there going, well, you've done this. Of course, it's led to this, but equally, things have to break. They kind of have to break, and it very much comes back into that trust thing. And I know from a 3D perspective, I can almost hear some of my nearest and dearest people going, yeah, but, because it's horrible and it's terrifying, and people are facing some of their biggest fears and they are up against it. Equally, you're facing some of your biggest fears, and that in and of itself, how we may be able to choose to face those fears is potentially an enormous gift. I'm so sorry if I've just offended anybody.
No, I don't think so. I think, and that was another one of my processing, thoughts in my drive today was I kind of knew it, from the beginning of embarking on this journey, which, was around the end of 2015, where everything got turned upside down for me. And I knew at that point that every fear that I held, that was conscious or not conscious, I had to live through the experience to get to the other side. And shit process to go through. But,
it's liberation lies.
Correct. And
I just want to say, oh, sorry, go on.
there's, you know, one thing of having knowledge, but it's lived experience that is necessary to grow and transform. You can't intellectually move yourself through ascension.
No, you can't. and just kind of, and isn't that interesting that, you know, we spoke about how the brain can't begin to comprehend energy, a feeling, etc., etc. It can try and rationalize it, except the thing is that at that point, until you neutralize so many other things, until you can find that balance point within yourself with so many other things, you can't even neutralize energy and emotions, because they are so overwhelming to a brain that's trying to compartmentalize it. What box do I put it in? Where does it fit? Where does it go, etc. But I just wanted to say to you, so this is a me thing, right? For the whole of this year, I've been seeing 2012, 8:12 p.m. I see it so much, and I've kept going, why? I've thought back to my life in 2012. There isn't really anything significant from that time period. I've considered the Mayan prophecies. Well, 2012 was supposedly, you know, the end of the world, etc., etc.
Yeah, well, I went to work thinking I was going to levitate because there was a solar flash that hit, and I was going to show the way to everyone in the corporate environment what the human potential is capable of as I floated around the office. Didn't happen.
365 years of disappointment. Years? Wow, that came out. 365 days of disappointment there, Alisha. I'm still not doing it. But still, 2012 keeps coming up. And then I've read a couple of people saying about this 10-year closure thing.
I've been thinking about that when I've been going to bed.
Particularly around from 2012 to 2022. Now, I might be a little bit ostrich, and I haven't seen people saying a 10-year closure from 2011 to 2021. I don't recall seeing that, but I am now starting to see this connection point that people are making to 2012, and I'm like, this is interesting. This gives me other avenues to consider, because that number I have seen more than any other number, I think, in my life. It is just continually being shown to me. I want your thoughts.
Well, yeah, a couple of things. I had a dream back in July. I had a lot of information coming back through in July, June, July, I think it was. And two of them were like being in a council and them saying we can't hold off what is about to occur on Earth any longer. Like we can't, because I don't know. I am sometimes of the opinion that things have been delayed. And so that message that I got was we can't hold back any longer. It has to occur now. And of course, you know, so literal now. I did hear a very clear message saying prepare for the 12th. That was it. I get these little, you know, snippets. And I thought it was the 12th of that month, whenever it was. And then I was talking to Dale, and he was like, the 12th month. And I went, yeah.
Oh, the 20th of the 12th. I need to make a note to this for myself, because, like I say, I've never been so consistently hit with a number, and have spent the vast majority of this year trying to figure it out. And every road that I go down, just intuitively, I'm like, it's not that. It doesn't resonate. There's no like in me. So yeah, I've just.
Yeah, and every time I felt into December, I felt a very excited, joyful energy. I can't put anything more. It was just, it came through in a glimpse, in a moment. I was walking, I saw fairy lights in a tree, and I had that same excited feeling that you have when you're a kid. and you're excited for Christmas to come. And I don't get excited by Christmas anymore for years, but that was my brain connecting, a feeling. I almost don't want to put into words, Joe, but just reading the patterns and going back to a lot of the dreams that I've had around the solar flash event, the collapse that is the precursor to, and I think so many of us could agree that the level of energy that's coming in hasn't been felt to this intensity. So we are being prepped for many things, I feel, many things. So yeah, and I was in bed. I wonder if that was us like merging our telepathy. I can't even talk, our telepathy, because I was thinking about the 2012 thing the other night in bed. And sometimes my head goes on weird tangents and I forget about it until someone brings it up. And that 10-year window period. And one of the theories that I had, like I remember when I had my session with Alice and Co last year, and I saw that there was this pocket of a 10-year period that was this in between of people like basically making their decisions to transition into the new frequency Earth. And it gave that period of time for people to migrate across into that frequency bandwidth to start to create the new, which I do feel like we're on the precipice of creating. So I wonder whether that is all coming in together.
Well, I'm now, my brain's just gone off on a tangent, because obviously my brain is now trying to, as we've said, my brain's now trying to logic or connect things, and I'm like, oh, the station, oh, the integrated and separating timelines, but one thing I do want to say though, Alisha, is that if you do wake up on the 20th of December and you begin to levitate, because you get there before me, I insist upon a video call.
Promise. Well, that's what was happening last night. I was being pulled out of my body.
Maybe they're giving you practice.
Yeah. Oh.
You're going to have to start to learn to enjoy that out of control feeling then, aren't you?
You know what? I like it on roller coasters. I love, there's specific, I in my youth, I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I would do any sort of extreme sports or anything like that. I love that feeling of adrenaline rush.
Reminded me of a dream, and I'm again dreams. I'm sure I told you about this, and you're probably going to go, no, Joe, no, I was probably just in the dream with you, about the one where I was levitating. I'm sure I told everybody about this dream. It was so real. Okay, so what I was doing was, it was almost like my hands, and I'm doing this now almost like to stir the energy. My hands had propellers, jet propellers almost, but not real jet propellers. It was just energy. And if I did this and put my hands palm down to the floor, I could levitate. And I was working on how to control how high up I wanted to go. I don't know how long I was in this dream for, but at one point I was doing it the other way, and I was walking on the ceiling with my hands still. So it was working with the gravity, but being able to use my energy to hold me up outside of gravity. Did I not tell you this? I told so. It was the coolest dream ever. I was like, oh my God, I was actually able to levitate, and I could walk on the ceiling and stuff because all the energy was in my hands.
I think we're getting to a time where that's an actuality. I think we are being trained in our dreams. I don't think that's a far off mark comment. Oh God, I can't even talk. I have to tell you this, and then we're going to wrap it up because I need to get to bed. I went to bed last night, and as I'm starting to drift off, I'll start to have, fleeting images. And it's as soon as I close my eyes, I'm starting to go into different realities. Before that happened, guess what flashback? The second BQH session that I had with you years ago, when I was on the Gold Coast and I was experiencing the solar flash event. And funnily enough, I'm heading up that way now. I don't think that's gonna, I think that was a potential timeline. I don't think that timeline will occur, but I remember the colors, and the colors that I'm tuning into right now is very similar. So yeah.
I feel another BQH coming on.
Actually, I've reflected a lot on those sessions that you've done for me, and each one is so profoundly life altering, changing. It's very powerful work you do, Jo. Really is. Yeah. And I can still almost jump back into them when I think about them and the experience. And then other times I'm completely blocked, but yeah.
You're going to get some good sleep. 10 hours.
Maybe I could be just wired now, Jo. But I do thank you.
I stayed too long.
I do want to thank you for your time. It's been so amazing to catch up and to be able to share our conversation with anyone who might find it helpful. So thank you for watching. For most of this, I've actually forgotten that we were actually recording. This has just been such a beautiful conversation.
We didn't know where we were going. We had no clue where it was going, but thank you for, obviously asking and saying, hey, should we record? It's like, yeah, sure. So
we don't get to catch up that often these days. We're both busy in our own little pockets of the world. So it's just nice that when we do, there's so much that comes out of it. So I guess it's been nice to capture that and share that with anyone who might find a benefit or resonate with. So are you still doing sessions? I know that you're deep in your I know that you're deep in your
I've never really been one for self-promotion massively, but yeah, I mean, if people are interested in sessions, I've still got the website. I have my awakening page. People are able to contact me. I've always just believed that people will come when they want to come, and that's that.
If you want to connect with Jo, I'll put her details in the description box below, where you can reach her and find her. Likewise, I am already booking sessions for part of when I'm away and when I return. So if you want to connect with me, if you're needing support to drop the density and move into that energy space for clarity or whatever it might be, there is great support out there. There's amazing practitioners who can help you. So, and basically, I don't know if you get this, Jo, but all the time people feel so relieved that they can freely speak them and be themselves and say the craziest stuff, and we don't blink an eyelid because we get it. So I think that's probably, one of our fundamental gifts of service in this crazy changing world. So thank you so much once again, just sending a lot of love out there to everyone. And well, I'm sure we'll be back soon with another catch-up chat. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.